following presentation is an Delmarva Studios production.
Welcome back, Truth Seekers from around the world. It is time for another edition of the Flat Earth Files podcast, episode 50, and this will put a wrap on season 1. What a great first 6 months it has been. JJ is joining us. We'll bring him in momentarily. Before we do so, just a reminder, even while we're on hiatus here for a couple of weeks, make sure you drop by theflatearthfiles.com. The chat room, you can direct message each other. You can drop in the forum, have a great conversation with like-minded people. Again, it is theflatearthfiles.com. And if you'd like to give us, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you'd like to join us on this program like JJ is tonight, please drop us an email. It is theflatearthfiles@gmail.com. Without any further ado, let's bring in our special guest for this evening. Joining us from north of the border is the one and only JJ. Sir, how are you doing this evening?
Hi, George. I'm doing good.
It's great to finally meet you. I think you reached out about a month ago, and quite an incredible...
Somebody tried to phone me.
But yeah, you emailed me, a month ago, and quite an incredible story. And why don't you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, I'm JJ, and I was born and raised on a First Nations reservation, a couple hours south of Toronto. Yeah.
And you're in the Ontario region now, and tell us a little bit. I don't know if we really want to jump right into your awakening, but you've had quite an interesting story growing up, and you've had really some interesting things with your sleep and things like that.
Yeah. So I guess everything started probably around 2008, 2009. Is I used to be a welder, and when that crash happened in 2008, I had no idea what was going on with all that. I just knew that I got fired, or not fired, but I got let go. And then it was hard to find a job. And I started drinking heavily. But before that, let me go back a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I think the first time I drank I was like 14. So I've been drinking since I was young, which is kind of a stereotypical thing, I guess, for Native people. And so after the 2008 crash, whatever, I got drinking heavily again. Like, I didn't drink every day, but I think they call it like binge drinking.
Yeah. You
just drink, and then you just drink.
Drink till you pass out, right?
Yeah. So that's that was my issue. But around 2010, I started having these like these weird sleep paralysis dreams, and it was like, at first it just started like I was like somebody was in the room with me sometimes. And then it turned into like this old lady. Old lady was always coming right up to me on the bed. And it would freak me out. I had no idea what it was. So I started getting on YouTube, and I started finding all these videos about the old hag and this goblin thing that sits on you, and the shadow people, like the black shadow people. And I dealt with that for like, I don't know, 6-7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
How are you able to get through the day when you're dealing? Because the most important thing, I didn't realize it till I started struggling with my sleep, but sleep hygiene is really the basis for getting through your day. That is one of the most important things. How did you get through 6 or 7 years of this?
I don't even know. It would happen at night. And, well, obviously, I mean, I'm sleeping.
Right.
Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
No, you're doing just
Um,
fine.
okay. Yeah, so it, I don't know. It would happen, and then I'd wake up. Well, actually, I wouldn't even wake up. I would like, sometimes I would just, it was such a strange thing. It's so weird to think about now that I'm thinking about it. I couldn't move and I could not speak. My partner would be sitting beside me, and I was like scream at the top of my lungs. Well, it felt like I was screaming, but a few times, she woke me up and she said I was just going like barely even making a noise. But for me, I thought I was like screaming as loud as I could. So, I don't know how I got through it. I think, well, a lot of times too is when I would wake up, I couldn't go back to sleep for like, I don't even know, probably, I don't even know if I went back to sleep half the time. So that was a lot of the times I start drinking a lot. That's kind of what I guess got me through it, because, when you drink till you pass out, you don't deal with that stuff.
Right.
Wake up the next day and carry on.
Wow. Did you, when you were going through it, did you ever try to reach out to any medical or psychological therapy to try to unload your burdens? Or was it just, were you discussing it more with family members?
I kind of discussed it a little bit with family, but I kind of kept it to myself mostly. I don't know why. I think I don't even know. I was just going through a lot then, and with the job loss, and I couldn't find another job like in my field, welding, right? And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that crash of 2008. I know it was, it affected the banks. I had no idea the trickle down effects of it were that great to where, folks, like welders were being affected by this. It's kind of remarkable
Yeah.
to hear.
Well, I probably could have got another job I went for another interview at GM, and I was super nervous going in there too, and I was just like 20 something, and I didn't pass. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't understand it at the time, right? I was just young. I just knew some places would hire me, but then when the 30 days would come up, or what is it, 30 days or 60 days, I think they have to hire you like permanently on
Right.
after a certain day, after certain many days. And right before that date, like a week, every place I went, they laid me off.
Because
So
they
I
don't
had
want to have
about
to like
maybe,
pay your benefits and everything.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that's exactly, yeah, yeah.
Wow, 6 or 7 years is a long time, and
That is crazy, yeah.
it must have taken a toll physically and emotionally. And how did it affect your personal life and your relationship with your spouse, your significant other, and your family members?
Yeah, I think, well, mostly the drinking, I think, is really what affected everything in the end. Because, yeah, I don't know. I just think that the drinking had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned, I think you said it would have been around. I know you started to kind of come upon quote unquote, truther. I don't know if it was podcasts or videos. I remember you saying that you found David Wilcox was one, and then
Okay.
I think Corey Good was another. Kind of talk about the transition from what you were going through to the beginning of your journey to the truth.
Yeah, so this sleep paralysis stuff is kind of what actually kind of got me onto the truth. Because I was searching these sleep paralysis videos, and I just start being led down all these crazy places. It was pretty crazy actually. And but I do believe it was the creator, because I actually reached out. That's what I did, is you know, I feel like I had nowhere to go or nobody to talk to, and I broke down. I got on my knees and I asked the creator, and I just asked him to help me and show me, a direction to go in life. And asked him to take this stuff from me, and I believe he did. And but that was a little bit later on. But that truther journey did start with the sleep paralysis. So I started going down all these other rabbit holes, and the very first flat Earth stuff I came across was Brian Mullen, and he was more like an engineer. I don't know if you're probably familiar with Brian Mullen, right?
Vaguely.
He was like an engineer, and when I first came across these stuff, I didn't quite understand what he was trying to relay. Like, it was too kind of complex for me, complicated. But he's the first one I came across, and so I watched him a few times and off and on, and like everybody says, right? You go to disprove that the Earth is actually flat.
That's right.
Because I grew up, watching Star Trek and Star Wars and all that stuff. My uncle used to watch Star Trek all the time, like religiously. So that was something that I, well, as a kid too, astronauts, and you want to go to space and all the Mars and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was where it started. I'm sorry, I'm quite nervous here.
You're doing just fine, brother.
I keep forgetting what I'm trying to say. Okay, so Brian Mullen. Brian Mullen, and then allegedly Dave, and who was that other one? Oh, Eric Dubay. Those were the first three I came across with the flat Earth stuff. And who's after that? Dave.
David Weiss Dave. And Mark Sargent probably is.
Dave Weiss.
Yeah,
Mark Sargent. Yeah, and from there, and it was just a pretty crazy journey. I actually figured all this stuff out. Well, I mean, not that I figured anything out really, but I don't know. I still think it's pretty wild. This stuff, this all I think about all the time.
Yeah. Now you say you came across this stuff, but there had to be something inside you to put down your guard long enough to even consider looking into this. Was it just curiosity? What do you think allowed you to take your guard down long enough to actually look into this?
Well, I think for one, being a First Nations person, is we have that. Well, me personally, have a trust issue with the government, and I don't know. I just didn't believe anything that they told us. But then at the same time, you're watching all these Star Trek shows and stuff, and you think that like that's the truth.
Yeah. And, well, I can assure you that everybody, well, I should say about 95% of the people who listen to the podcast and are in the truth community have trust issues with the government. That's really one of the big reasons why we're here, is because they've lied about so much. On my other podcast, it's, most of maybe the first 20 years of our country being around was legit, but the very first war, the War of 1812, was forced upon us because of bankers, and it's always been about the bankers. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who control the politicians. Big Daddy Rothschild said, "I don't care who your king is or your president is. It's who controls the money is the one who really controls the country and the world." And that's really where we're at. Everybody, and again, everybody in the truth community has a serious trust issue with the government. It's a shame that people that, when I was younger, I'd get all pumped up, go to the polls and pull that lever, and I'm doing my part. And, it's kind of sad when you get older and you realize it's just two wings of the same corrupt bird. And that's why we kind of get into this and we walk away from, I guess you could call it normal society. I guess that's why we use the term normies so much. But when you first started going through these videos, whether it was allegedly Dave, Eric Dubay, or David Weiss, what kind of impact did it have on your life when you started to realize there's more to it than just a air quote conspiracy theory?
I don't know, because at the time, I think it was around 2013, 2014. Like, I would say that I was for sure the Earth was flat around 2016, 2017. And, well, not for sure, because we really don't know.
But you were looking into it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm so sorry, man. My mind keeps wandering. What was the question?
No, you were just saying, you were talking about your journey. How did it change you emotionally? And you started to realize in 2015, 2016 that you started to accept the fact that maybe the ball was a lie. How did that affect you, emotionally? How did it change you?
I tried to tell people about it, and I think I think I kind of lost hope a little bit for a while there. I was telling my wife and my friends, and nobody really. I don't know if you've ever tried to tell. Well, obviously you probably have, but sometimes when you tell people these things, they look at you so weird. They
Yeah.
get this like blank look in their eyes, and it's like they're not there or something. But I had that issue for the first few years,
Yeah.
and so I didn't even really. I kind of stopped telling people about this stuff, and every once in a while I would tell my wife, I'm like, I don't know, she doesn't like I say this, but I would say, well, I'm just a dumb Indian. How can I see these things or figure this stuff out? But
Yeah. That's, I'm sure you probably ran into the same issues that many of us did. Because for me at first, I know I've said this 1,000 times. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but you go from anger because once again, here's another lie like 9/11 and even Wounded Knee and all these other things I've deep dived on my other podcast. But then, you start to embrace it and you feel these shackles breaking and you realize that, I don't answer to man. I answer to the individual who created this. Because we are here, it was not the result of an explosion. It was not a result of evolution. This was created for us specifically, and we were meant to be here during this time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I believe that too. I think that had I don't know, sorry.
No, you're good. I meant to ask you, was the flat earth like your first trip, or I should say your first stop on your journey to the truth, or had you gone down? Now, I understand that you went down the old hag and the black hat shadow man kind of rabbit hole, but had you actually looked into other government air quote conspiracies before flat earth, or was that really one of the first ones you came across?
Well, like growing up on the reservation, we've had a lot of I don't know if you ever heard of the Ipperwash Oka crises in Canada. It's the police or the government was trying to take over land and turn it into a golf course. And there was we call them the warriors. It's like a group of men, like the peacekeepers. And they went out there and they were protecting the land. There was women out there too and children, and they sent the army in. And one of the men was shot and killed. His name was Dudley George. And I don't know. For me, I always just had this thing about the government and stuff because of the way we were treated in the past. So I was always weary. I questioned a lot of their motives and stuff. But yeah, I think that's where it started for me.
Yeah, I wasn't super familiar with the Ipperwash crisis. That was actually in the terms of history, not that too long ago. That was in 95.
Yeah. It wasn't that long ago, yeah. Yeah, I was just young then too. I think I don't even know. Like I was born in 81, so I would have been like maybe 13 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah, you'd have been 13 or 14. And it's interesting, the stories, it's interesting how they go back and write these stories, out of public concern. The Ontario police decided to deploy crowd management units, and they, you got these protesters at a park and they bring up these tactical response units in, helmets and batons and shields and these riot squads. And these stories have unfortunately marred our history, to be honest, all across North America. And yeah, I was not familiar with this story, and I'm looking at this gentleman. His name is What was it? Dudley George. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That was yeah. I don't know. And but also, I just wanted to say that my grandfather was scooped up in the residential school stuff. Him and his brothers and sisters, and I think he was only like 14 at the time.
My
And I
goodness.
think he stayed there till he was 18 or something. But he used to speak the language before he went in, and when he came out, he doesn't even speak it until this day. He will not speak it. I think he's like 81 or something, or 82. Yeah, but he won't speak it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of sad, really. But I mean, I don't know.
Would that have been in the 50s or 60s?
I think that was no, that would have been before that, because I think he was born in 1940 something.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. So
yeah,
probably
maybe
40s,
about,
50s. Yeah.
yeah, maybe about 50s. Yeah, mid 50s.
That is quite interesting. What was the one piece when you were going through the flat Earth and going through the videos and doing your research? Was there a certain piece of information that kind of puts you over the top that, kind of led you to believe that more likely than not that, the whole ball story is just that, a story?
Well, I guess everything in all together, but our story, I mean, our creation story is that similar to the Bible, right? Where um there was the grandmother that came down from the sky world while she was, I don't know, she was digging around at the roots and she seen the water down below. She was really curious about it. And the king of the sky world, which I assume is the creator, he told her and her husband not to go near that tree. But one day she went out there and she dug a big hole. She made it bigger and she fell down. And when she was falling to the water, uh, two geese caught her in the air and they brought her down to the water. And there happened to be a big sea turtle down there. And so they put her on the turtle's back. And then that's the teachings, right? You get the 13 months or the 13 I don't know if you know about turtles. They got the 13
Absolutely. I've talked about that many times. It's got the 13 and the 28 on their back, right?
yeah. And so that like I learned that a long time ago when I was a kid, but that came into play with the flat earth too, which kind of, and I don't know, it's just all these things accumulated, like the sun, like it looks like it's right there, but they say it's 93 million miles away. And yeah, in the moon, like the shadow, the temperature of the moon, I don't know, just all these little things. It just, and every time I would watch, because I used to watch all those. I know Eddie Bravo says this. He used to watch. Him and Joe used to watch those space documentaries, and me and my cousin were the same. We used to watch those all the time. And same thing. Every once in a while, I'd be like, "Why are they all cartoons? Like, why are they CGI? Why don't they actually have a real camera going out there? And why can't we see it? Like when they supposedly landed on the moon, why don't we have footage like that of planets and stars and everything, these novas and all that? It's just like CGI cartoons everywhere."
And I think the further we go along in this timeline, that the more fake that CGI from, well, now we're at 54 years ago or 53 or whatever it is, how awful it looks. And by the way, why isn't there a monument for the guy who was left behind on the moon, the guy who took the camera footage as as it took off from the moon? Where's the memorial to that guy?
That's crazy. That's such a silly one. I don't know how people can't see this stuff. This, like I just said earlier, right? Like how can I? But I think I know the answers because I asked the creator for this. I asked him for answers because, but when I was even younger, I always thought this to myself, like, why are we here? Who are we? Like, those 5 questions: who, what, where, when, why.
Yep.
And I always thought that my whole life. So I feel like I always had a connection with the creator. I didn't know it at the time until, like, when I actually prayed out loud to him, when I got down on my knees and stuff. And yeah, that was that.
Yeah, and it's important sometimes to ask. And, God will show you. I believe God will show you. You just have to be receptive, and it may not come as a fortune cookie message floating from the sky, right?
Yeah.
You have to be aware and of the signs that are given to you, and and it's so interesting how what's the name of your Bible?
My Bible?
Yeah, you were talking about your creation
no,
story, and I apologize that I'm not familiar with it.
Oh no, we don't really have a Bible or anything. It's just word of mouth, like our creation stories are just
Okay.
passed down like that. Yeah, we don't really have a Bible.
I understand, but it's amazing that creation story, how even other religions around the world, the similarities between.
I know.
Isn't that something?
It is crazy. It's crazy. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, it's the same story in every religion. We all have different pieces.
Yep. Indeed. It's that tree of knowledge. And it's interesting, that the Illuminati, whatever with the controllers, the Luciferians is the correct terminology, is really what it is. They believe that God trapped, Adam and Eve and held them in a prison, and, basically Lucifer wanted them to, help them escape, this prison they were in. Everything, and that's why everything with them is inverted. Good is bad, bad is good, and it's sad so many people fall for this.
I see. I never understood that before until you just did that.
Yep.
Because I couldn't understand why they're so the way they are. Like, it makes no sense, but what you just said, that makes sense. If they actually believe that, well, I guess they must. I mean, look what they're doing to this place.
Yeah, they believe that God was the bad guy. He created Adam and Eve and had them locked in this little prison and said, you don't touch that. That's my knowledge, right? And, of course, Satan was the hero in their story, showed them the tree and helped them escape the Garden of Eden. And basically what they're missing is these people are living for worldly things, and our time on earth compared to eternity is not even a drop in a bucket. And it's sad to me so many people go along with the mainstream and just immerse themselves in worldly things instead of, being more godly, I guess.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Do you have any other thoughts on the flat Earth, whether it be a video or Antarctica, the things that you've come across?
Oh, I had it. I got like a terabyte of information saved on SD cards and stuff. It's not all flat Earth, but I mean, it's just especially after 2017. I don't know if you remember that, when they announced they were going to be well, they did. They kicked people off the platform.
Yeah, when Google took over 5 years ago, it's a shame. YouTube was such a great tool, and you could literally put in flat Earth, and you could find flat Earth. You could put in whatever conspiracies out there, and it would actually lead you to those type of videos. And not only has Google/YouTube deplatformed people, they hide the algorithms within the search engine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I don't get even notified of certain channels. And actually today, I don't know if you follow Brian Stavely from Dose of Reality. He does a lot on the Mandela effect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he had a live going today. And I didn't even know. I was actually, remember I told you at the beginning, during the trucker protest, they deleted my channel. So I created another channel. It's called Indigenous Creature, sorry. And so I was scrolling on that, and I seen the Brian Stavely live. I was like, what the heck? So I switched back over to my other JJ channel, and I start scrolling through his things, and there was no live on any of the channels. It was so strange. I had to, even after I typed in his name, the channel, and live, it still didn't pop up. So I end up scrolling all the way, I don't know, pretty close. Well, not the bottom, but I scrolled down quite a bit, and then it was down there. It did show up, but I'm sub to the guy, notifications are on and stuff like that.
That's a big problem. There's a lot of people, I think, that are, I guess the term is shadow banned. And a lot of truthers I follow, when they go live, I don't get notifications either. I'll go in later and see that they've already had a video and I've never been notified. So, yeah, there's certainly a lot of nefarious stuff going on at YouTube. I think we talked, when we were talking about the trucker situation, that might have been very briefly or even before we started recording. Do you want to tell folks about your experience with that?
Oh, yeah. Well, my wife and I, we started doing a lot of protests in, I think it was around 2012, 2013. We were just trying to raise awareness about the, I don't know if you heard of the Idle No More movement.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. It was a movement it was probably one of the biggest movements in First Nations people. It woke a lot of natives up. And a lot of my friends that aren't even involved in this kind of stuff, we all went out protesting, and it was just raised awareness about the water on the reserves, like how bad a lot of the water is, and a lot of the poverty, and a lot of the oil pipelines going through reservations, which I don't have a problem with oil or gas. It's just, why can't you go around? I mean, they're
right.
Trillionaires.
No kidding.
And but yeah, so we started doing that, and that's kind of how I kind of got into the protest stuff. And when this trucker protest came around, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. We were kind of done protesting because a lot of the people got arrested. A lot of our First Nations brothers and sisters got arrested defending our own land. And it's crazy. It's just crazy to me. So when the trucker protest came along, I reached out to, well, I didn't reach out a lot, but I started asking people to go out there, and because to me, this was our moment. We were waiting for something huge like that. We needed the rest of the population with us. I mean, there's only so many First Nation people, and I feel like we did a big flop on that one. Like, we should have been there. And I think another thing was I don't know if you heard of Pat King. You probably heard of Pat King.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When they were out there, they did this pipe ceremony, and they supposedly gifted him with a pipe, which in our culture, we don't give people pipes like that. Like, that pipe is a sacred, it's a sacred tool. And so I think a lot of people got offended at that. But to me, that was kind of not really besides the point. But I mean, like, it was still a big thing to me. But there's bigger things going on, I feel, than, getting all upset over I mean, I can understand. I do understand. But I felt like there was bigger things going on like this protest it's for our children. It's not just for like the native children. It's for all the children in the world. And that's the way I was looking at it.
Right.
So I tried to get people to go out there, and nobody would go. Nobody would go. There was a couple people that went. There's a lady named Rhonda Martin. She's got a YouTube channel called Real People's Media. And she went out there, and there was a couple of other people that were out there, but just like protesters. And that was it. Like, maybe that I knew of, maybe 6 people were out there from all these other reserves. And it's like, this is what we do. Not what we do, but I mean, we were trying to raise awareness about this for years. And yeah, to me, that was just, I was really disappointed when that happened. And even to this day, a lot of my First Nation brothers and sisters, they took their shots, they wore their masks, and still to this day, some of them are still walking around with masks on. And like, I felt like we were chosen, or because of what happened with us in the past, that we should have been the ones we should have been on the front lines. We should have been the truckers.
Right, because of the tyranny that you guys have experienced prior to that. And you guys have established a lack of trust for the government, then, here comes 2020, and the same folks around you who have had such a distrust for the government basically your entire life, all of a sudden are walking hand in hand with the very tyrannical, things that are imposed on the people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Oh, sorry, hang on, I got my dog down here with me.
Okay.
Sorry, can we pause for 1 second?
Yep. Let me go ahead.
That was pretty crazy. And another thing is too, have you watched the what is it? The Hibbler.
Hibbler Productions level.
Yeah, no, the Fluvid one.
Oh, I'm not sure if I have or not.
Yeah, I think it's on his channel, but it's about the coronavirus stuff, right? And they use that number 33, and guess how many cases landed on my reserve?
33.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So that makes me wonder about some of the chiefs down there.
Oh,
I don't know.
That's interesting.
I know the chiefs. One is when this corona stuff happened, my cousin was one of the chiefs at the time, and I don't know. It makes me wonder, right? Because I don't really talk to anybody about this stuff. Like I haven't been on Facebook in years, maybe 2016, 2017, and I don't go on like Instagram or TikTok or anything. My research is strictly YouTube, and then whatever links, like everybody talks about. Oh, I go on Spotify and Stitcher, like Sam Tripoli and Stop Look Think site, Brenda Tavares. You guys were just talking about her, I think, on the last podcast.
Yep.
And so that's how I would find whatever they were talking about, like on whoever I was listening to, I would go to that person, and then I kept just going and going and going. I found so many people. It's pretty wild.
Indeed. And we hadn't really even got to the part with the trucker protest, and you had mentioned Pat King, which is interesting because if I remember correctly, he was one of the guys who was directly involved with those. Was it called United We Roll up there?
Yeah, I think they organized it or something. Him and that Tamara Lynch lady. Apparently, they organized everything.
And tell us about your involvement and how did that work out for you? What was it like to be a part of that movement?
With the Idle No More?
No, the convoy protests.
Oh no, I didn't go right out there. Like I said,
I'm sorry.
Nobody would go and stuff. There was like 6 people that went. Like I said, that lady's she's got a YouTube channel, Real People's Media. She went out there. She had I think there's maybe a couple people on her channel that they interviewed, but no, for me, I was really disappointed, and I thought it was going to be something big. I really did. And when nothing came of it, like on our end, I just kind of, I don't even know. I just kind of went recluse, and I kind of thought, that I didn't think people were gonna wake up. I honestly thought, I didn't know what to think. I was taking it day by day, and then I came across your channel, and you guys are talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, what? There's people out there that actually talk about this stuff. I couldn't believe it.
I was shocked too when I saw, I was like, I'm going to do this little podcast on the side, and because I enjoy talking about it. Maybe we'll get 50 downloads a month, and I'll find a couple people who are like minded, and it just blows me away the amount of people are out there, and that's the thing. There are tons of people out there who are like minded. It's just that we're kind of scattered about. But luckily, this God has been able to provide me to use this as a vessel to connect people from around the world who are like-minded.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that we're kind of scattered too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can share the message, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because if we were like all, if we were in one spot, they could just, who knows, they could just send whatever and come get us all.
Why was when you came across flat Earth and you went down that rabbit hole and you realized the lies of the globe, what did it mean to you personally? Like for many people, it brought them close to the Creator. They realized that they weren't just here, like I said earlier, by accident. What did it mean to you?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same for me. It just brought me closer to the Creator. I mean, it's like He's right there, pretty much. And I started reading the Bible, and believe it or not, there's a lot of Native people that are Christians too. On my reserve, actually, too. We got like 2 churches down there. And sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it just hit me when the whole COVID thing kicked off. Did they close the churches up there as well?
I believe so. The whole reserve was shut down. Yeah.
No kidding.
And you were going to get I think it was either a $800 fine or $1,000 fine if you were caught.
What?
Everything around. Yeah, man. And like, I don't know, on my reserve, we're pretty strong people and pretty like, we'll stick up for ourselves and what's right. We'll say what's right is what's right. And I'd never seen anything like it, to be honest. It was really quite strange. I think everybody just got brainwashed or something because, man, nobody wanted to hear it. Even people called me down. Some people, they're saying I'm crazy and all this. You know how they say that stuff.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I get that. I get those emails every day, brother. Yeah, for me, I think my big frustration is, and I'm sure, well, you've told me that you felt this. I'm sometime find myself shaking my head when I saw the things that happened over the last 3 years. The lack of activism, the lack of courage. It was, I don't even know what the word is. I was so, I guess sad is really, when I went through all those emotions, I was very sad. I was very disappointed. And I ask people all the time, and I guess I'll ask you this. Why is it that people have I shouldn't say no, but there is very little grassroots organic activism out there? I believe that much of the things that were going on here in the United States in the Summer of Love in 2020, I don't think much of that was organic. I think that was money by the very people at the top who wanted to intentionally cause mayhem in this country. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah, for sure. You're talking about like the burnings and all that in Portland and everything?
Yeah.
I think for sure that was somebody got paid, and when you pay somebody and then you have followers, I mean I don't even believe some of these people even knew what they were doing. They probably just well, maybe they did. I don't know. I just honestly think people lost their freaking minds. I don't even know, but I do think that was orchestrated. I think so, 100%.
Do you think some of it, I'm just spitballing here, possibly this was, let's lock them down from March to June. People are going to be upset. They've been cooped up, and then it's hot. It's the summer, and they start this stuff, and they fire the people up.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big part.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these guys, look, they've been manipulating us for a long, long time, from War of the Worlds to the movies, to TV. They've been brainwashing us for a long time. But what do you think? Why is there such a lack of activism? Why doesn't anybody want to stand up for the rights anymore?
I think it has to do with your beliefs or your connection with Creator and Spirit. That's what I think. Because I know when I wasn't really like now I believe in the Creator. Well, I know there's a Creator. And back when I was drinking and stuff, I didn't really care to know about it, and I was doing a lot of bad things. And I think when you're doing bad things, that's probably the last thing you want to think about too. is the creator. But I think a lot of people don't have that connection anymore, or if they've even had it at all. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And the materialistic society that we live in, I think, has a lot to do with it.
You know, you made a very good point there. If you don't have faith, then you really don't have a moral compass, and you're less likely to live in a way that you should be living. And if you have no morals, then there's no morals to fight for. Henceforth, why bother with activism?
Yeah.
I think, to all the listeners out there, if you've never been involved in activism, it is, it's scary. It's, but at the same, when you're done, it's one of the proudest things I've ever done, because it takes, and I've said this many times, if we're going to make a difference in this world, you're going to have to do things that you're not super comfortable with. You're going to have to do things out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it starts with getting out of your house. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Oh, I just said we got to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. And they're not ever going to give you your rights back. All the things that they've taken from us over the last 110 years, really the big dagger was when they started with the Federal Reserve, and they've done nothing but become bigger parasites over the last 110 years, is because we've sat back and taken it. And even worse, you know, in a way, we continue to pay our slave master, right? You know, we are treated like a lot of people here in the States. We see that the United States is funding Ukraine's pensions. And at the same time, there's homeless people, there's veterans who are going without benefits. It's just, again, inverted. Everything is inverted.
Yeah, they invert everything. It's what's good is bad, and what's bad is good.
Yeah, but yeah, if and listen, if you don't find anything in your area for you to get fired up about, do it yourself. Become a leader. That is one of the most, you want to talk about being outside of your comfort zone. I mean, you talk about the gentleman we were just talking about, Pat King. And what was the name of that guy up in Canada? Big, burly guy who worked out all the time, and he was a big figure during the COVID protests.
Big burly fella?
Yeah, like he was a bodybuilder or something.
I'm not sure. I can't think of it right now anyway. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. I'll have to. Oh, he was a trucker?
Chris Sky.
Oh, Chris Sky. Okay, yeah, I don't know what was up with that guy, man. They were all bickering for a while there. Sometimes I feel like some of these guys they're working for the enemy.
You think he was a controlled opposition guy?
I don't know, but I mean, his attitude was, he had a kind of a good attitude, but he seemed really like cocky or confident or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, but I think some of these guys might have been controlled opposition. Now I don't know. I look at everything as a freaking, with skeptical eyes, like pretty much everything now.
Yeah, there was a lot of things during COVID that took place during COVID that took place in Canada. I remember the church. There was a church up there. I don't remember which province it was in, but they came in, kicked everybody out, and they put like barbed wire around the entire church.
I don't know if that was the Arthur Pawlowski one. I think that might have been in Alberta or something.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it was, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's... I don't know. I still can't believe how people acted.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was overnight because, here in the States, we always look at Canada as the super friendly people. And then all of a sudden your leader turns into this super dictator. And, next thing you know, they're making vaccines. They're trying to make it mandatory and vaccine passports. And, we had, there was some cities in our country that had a little crazy, but Canada, New Zealand, Austria, and Australia, Man, it was next level. Did it seem like there was a huge change overnight, or is it something that you had noticed that had kind of been building over a long time?
Um, I would say it happened overnight, pretty much. I mean, as soon as they announced the lockdowns and everything, heck, I mean, I'd look outside and there wasn't a car out there. There wasn't a person walking by. I regret this now, but I wish I would have took more videos. I well, oh, I forgot to mention, my wife and I, we had a baby we had two babies. We had my little girl who just turned 3 on the 6th, and then
Oh,
we had
wow.
the
So
boy.
she was born like 2 months into the.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was actually worried about that. This is another little story. When we went in there, I don't know if, well, I think I've heard you talk about Crow 777.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you know Rose Crow, the one that does
Yeah, of
these?
course. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to her, and she, well, they were talking about the affidavits and all this stuff, and so I ended up getting in contact with her. She sent me a bunch of paperwork, like templates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness I didn't have to use it. But it seemed like for me, I don't know if it was just my wife and I were just like, I don't know. I mean, they didn't seem to push that stuff on us too hard. I don't want to say it's because we're natives. I don't know, but um, I just said no, we're not. My babies, we're not taking the vax, right? And then she asked why, and we just said, well, for one, she just born into this world. They're not gonna start jabbing her with stuff,
Right.
And but yeah, Rose helped me with those affidavits and stuff. And so we had the baby, yeah, right at the beginning, and then this last year we had a baby. He just turned 1 yesterday.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What was it like having that baby in May of 2020? What was the experience like? Did you go to the hospital?
Yeah, we went to the hospital. It was actually surprisingly not as bad as I thought. Because, I was watching all these crazy videos on Telegram.
Yeah.
And so I expected the worst, right? And I was actually kind of scared and nervous. But to me, I was ready to fight for that baby if I had to.
That's awesome.
And yeah. But yeah, pretty much everything went without a hitch. We were in there, and she stayed for one night, and then we came home the next day. Actually, I think I stayed there with them, actually. And then we came home the next day. But for my daughter 3 years ago, she stayed overnight by herself, and then I came picked her up in the morning because I got a bunch of other kids.
Well, that's awesome. That's a story you're going to have. Baby born during that first 60 days of COVID. That must have been nerve-wracking.
Oh, man, it was pretty wild.
Man.
Yeah. The only thing is, like I said, I wish I would have took more videos. Oh, yeah, the hospitals were acting crazy too, because my one daughter, I think she was 5 at the time, she got like a ear infection or something. I took her to the hospital, and they were trying to get me to put a mask on her, and I said, she's not wearing a mask, she's this little. And they wouldn't see us. So I left.
And how old was she?
She was like 5 or 4 at the time.
Wow.
She was this little, yeah. Because, well, now I'm thinking back, it's already been like 4 years since all this stuff been going on, right? She just turned 9 last month. So she must have been 5, 4 or 5, yeah.
Wow.
And I wouldn't see her. Like, I got so upset that time too, but I just left, because I was getting on the buses, and I was going into stores like Tim Hortons without masks, and I was going into 7-Elevens and getting on the city buses, and every time for a while there, they were at the beginning trying to tell me to wear a mask and all this stuff, right? And I just told them I got an exemption. I think I heard on one of Crow's or somebody's podcast, there was a lady named Miriam Hanane, and she said that she just put like a what are they called? Like a laminated piece of sheet or paper, and it just had I'm allergic or I don't know, I can't remember how she worded it. It was something in Latin, and which it was like, I can't even remember what the word was, but it was like something stupid, like I can't remember, like I'm not wearing that, or I'm not wearing a mask, or something in Latin. But she put it laminated so it looked like it was like a medical. I think she even put some medical emblems on there, and
Nice.
just made it look real official, right? So she would just walk in the hospital and flash that around. So I got that idea. I didn't print anything out. Well, actually, I did print something out, but I didn't get it laminated and stuff. And but when they would ask me about the mask and stuff, I would just say, "Oh, I got an exemption." I didn't even say health exemption or nothing. I just said I have an exemption, and they would leave me alone. I think you just had to assert your authority.
You did. You had to assert your authority, and you couldn't be meek. And it was interesting.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people, like your average, and I'm not picking on people who work at Walmart. I'm just using this as an example. Your average Walmart, stocker would be like, "Hey, if you're going to come in my store, you need a mask," right? People were just taking and using it, and the people who were behind this, they enabled it, right? They wanted this to happen. They wanted to use this to just divide us more than we already were, right?
Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, is the division, like how they divide us, like for First Nations and non-natives, for instance, right? There's a big, stigma there. And divide. Like, hockey teams. I think David Weiss says that hockey teams, like countries, Canada, the states, or even your province and your state, like it's just this divide, right? Even now it's in the families, right? They're dividing the families.
It's interesting. You mentioned Miriam Hennon. She just came across the news today. Did you know she was making a George Floyd movie that was crowdfunded?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yep.
Yeah, she was a big. She stood up for COVID, and she was a big. She's big. I guess the correct term is anti-vaxxer, because she's behind the vaccines cause autism thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's another documentary. I forget what it's called. Shoot, I can't remember it is, but yeah, there's so many people that I would say more so over the past 4 years. I found a lot more people than initially before. Well, because like I said, I kind of gave up a little bit. Not give up, but
I'm sure you were a little disheartened when you saw the lack of.
Yeah, nobody was receptive, and nobody wanted to talk about it, and they just look at you weird, like this guy's nuts, like. And this is my cousins and my friends and stuff.
And this is why I think, kind of going full circle again, why Flat Earth is so important, because it kind of brings back a sense of I belong here, and I'm here. Once again, I'm here for a reason. What is that reason? Maybe it is to, stand up. If you're not going to stand up for yourself, like I said, do it for the children, your grandchildren. And we simply can't turn over the ball to the next generation with the way the world is right now. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's kind of why I reached out too. I was kind of shocked when I heard how many people are on your podcast and the stuff you guys are saying. And I was like, oh, this is it. I got that little inkling or whatever, I think it was the creator said, better get on that and talk to this guy, because I think this is going to be a big thing.
It is.
People
and
are waking up.
That is, we talk about all the negatives of COVID. I still say it's helped, wake a lot of people up. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who rolled up their sleeve, and we pray for them and hope that it's, the batch they got was just, obviously every single one couldn't be a bad batch, because that would be too obvious. But we pray that everybody's going to be healthy, and we move on from that, and we learn, and we don't allow it to happen again. But I mean, the flat earth is so important. And one of the big questions we all have is, how, and I get emails, most of my emails, 50 to 75% of them are either saying, hey, how can I, share the message successfully? Or the other way, they're people telling me how they were successful, and that is the biggest. You know, that is the biggest issue that we have in this community. Is, I guess, it's twofold. It's one, how do we communicate it? Number two, how do we get that stigma away from the words flat Earth?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird because like flat Earth is such a it's a loaded term. Like people are like, and then you got that Flat Earth Society stuff with the flat Earth floating in space and all that, and like, but without the flat Earth name, people wouldn't really know what to look for, and you wouldn't even really know what the concept was. Like if you were to call it there's the other terms like concave Earth and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that that name, it has to be flat Earth, because initially at first I was like, well, I don't want to be called a flat earther like that. It's
because of the stigma behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so for a while there, even when I was deep into the flat Earth, I was all over deep inside the Rabbit Holes channel, and I used to be in the chat there. But then Jaren and the RV start doing their bickering or whatever. And I got right out of there.
I did too, brother.
We don't have time for that kind of stuff. Like,
no. And that's why even on my other podcast, I won't really spend time saying this guy's a fraud, that guy's a fraud, because number one, it's a waste of to me, I'm not telling any other podcaster how to do their job. This is just from my vantage point, is there's bigger fish to fry. There's bigger issues to talk about. And number two, I think it's kind of condescending to the listener, because that's saying that you can't discern for yourself who is good and who is bad. That, to me, that's always been a slap in the face. Like, I come to you for content, not to tell me who to listen to. To me, that's always condescending to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's interesting. I meant to tell you this when we kicked off. There was a story that's kind of running wild. David Weiss had the Georgia GOP chairman. Her name is Candace Taylor. And she was on, I guess she had Dave on her podcast, and she said that the Globe is propaganda, and that's making the rounds. And of course, if you just put flat Earth into the Google search engine, on the right, you'll see flat Earth is an archaic and scientifically disproven conception of Earth's shape. And then on the left, the top stories, it is, of course, another crazy GOP, right? And so, the powers that be know how to take this information and make people just look silly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to go listen to that one. I guess this was from like yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dave is making big news.
I haven't really been following Dave too much lately. Ever since since Jaren and RV got into it, I kind of just got off all those channels and just been kind of doing my own thing.
Yep, agreed. But that's interesting for sure that it's back in the news.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a good thing, a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. Even if a handful of people, if this these Rolling Stone and these other articles cause people to take 5 minutes to look into it. But again, this is the problem. They go to Google, they put in flat Earth, and this information comes up, just, silly flat earthers. And 9 times out of 10, they probably just click out of the browser and move on, because they're like, I'm not going to be associated with these crazy people. And that's why I tell people, use Brave, use Yandex, use something other than Google and DuckDuckGo, because they're controlled and they're going to take you where they want you to go.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Well, was there anything on your list there that we haven't touched on yet that you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the nuclear stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Go ahead, brother. I've been working on that. I'll be doing an episode in late June, early July about that.
Oh, okay. I wonder if you heard of Galen Windsor then.
Oh yeah, that's the guy who drank. And he did there's a great. I think I put that on my classic audio. He gave a great speech. It might have been in the mid 80s. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so. It was an old video. That was one of the videos I first came across too. Galen Windsor, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And interesting, because what people don't realize is So we firebombed Tokyo. And if you just go to Google for this one, if you go to Google and you put Japanese bombing in, I think it was March or February of 45, the entire city is just gone. Absolutely gone. And what people don't realize, or they may not realize, is back in the 40s, most of the buildings in Japan were made out of wood.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have all these cool high rises and stuff. So everything burned. And it was the same with Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Yeah.
So there are theories out there, including the same day as the quote unquote day that the bomb was dropped. There was 66, there's that number again, 66 B-29s that went out on a mission to a town near Nagasaki. I don't have the information in front of me right now, so I'm spitballing. But that town had already been decimated. So the thought is that those birds dropped Nagasaki, and there was some type of explosion. Maybe. Do you remember the explosion in Beirut in either 2020 or 2021? That fertilizer explosion in Beirut. It looked like a nuclear.
Yeah, I remember that big
Yeah,
cloud.
so the thought is that, yes, there was a mission. Yes, they had something in their payload, and yes, they dropped it. But the town had been firebombed, and they used the ammonium nitrate as the explosion. Because, listen, everything from the 30s on, much of it was propaganda. The most powerful tool that people have, that the controllers have, is propaganda. And back then, the biggest thing, the guy's name is Hersey. I don't have it in front of me again, but this guy was like one of the first and only reporters allowed on the scene after it happened. And the guy was Skull and Bones from Yale University, like George Bush and everybody else. Yeah. So, and Oppenheimer, his connections.
Oppenheimer, yeah.
Yeah, these guys, there's something not right about it. And if these people have had these weapons for 80 years and not been used once, I think it's, again, I think it's propaganda. Not to say that we don't have these massive weapons. I've seen them. But these weapons of nuclear that can destroy, they say, there's nukes that can destroy the world 10 times over and just end humanity. I don't believe that for a second. That's just me.
I don't believe that either. I mean, plus look at how many wars there's been in the past, 30 years or whatever. And I mean, obviously there's been a few big bombs dropped, but nothing crazy like that. And why would they not want to use that if, I mean, I don't know. Like with the whole Taliban thing, they could have easily dropped the nuke there if they wanted to, or they chose to, or whatever.
Indeed. So, yeah, I think it's just, I mean, everything about this world is about fear.
Yeah, I believe that too.
And the fallen angels and Lucifer, Satan, they're all about keeping our morale low. They don't want us being happy. They don't want us enjoying life. They want us to be miserable, because being miserable lends us to be more dependent on the government, and the government is corrupted by Satan. That's my thought.
Yeah, I believe that too. I had something else to say. I totally forgot what I was going to say.
And I meant to ask you that. Was that basically along the same line as what you believed, as far as the nukes go?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe it was just firebombed. I mean, what was it? Just a few years after that, their cities were booming after that.
Yeah, 3 days later, they were selling flowers in the streets. By the way, his book, I'll put it in the, there's a couple cool books. It's The Plutonium Hoax, Nuclear Scare, proven by Galen Winsor. I'll put that in the show description for folks to check out.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's just fear. And I believe that's all it is, really. I mean.
And with the globe model, that they use that as a tool of fear, right? There's an asteroid coming close.
Yeah, they always say that. There's just an asteroid coming. I think it was like a couple of weeks ago there was supposed to be one coming or something.
Yeah, it's the closest that's ever passed in 2 million years.
But people love that stuff. They eat that No, they eat that doom and gloom right up.
They do, and again, it goes. We on the conversation I had last night with Michelle. One of the biggest things for me was when I picked the Bible back up. The firmament was one, and the Bible's very clear that God made two lights. He didn't make a light and a highly reflective floating ball. He made two lights, and that's, the moon is a light. It's not a reflective, dusty old ball.
Yeah, and also the moonlight is colder than it is in the shade.
Yes, 100%.
I keep forgetting what I was going to say here. There was I know what else I was going to talk about. Have you ever heard of that movie called The Principal with Kate Mulgrew, Captain Janeway?
The Principal.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to figure out. They don't necessarily say that it's a flat Earth or whatever, but they're trying to figure out the universe and stuff. What's his name? Michikaku's on there. Max Tegmark. There's a couple of high-level scientists on there, and at the end of the show, they say they don't know. They can't figure it out. It could be either this or that. Like it could be. I forget what they're saying. They're trying to say that the universe is a bubble or something. It's been a while since I watched that.
Oh, yeah. I know which one you're talking about now. The one that came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But that was a good one too. It makes me wonder though if like some of these, they must know this stuff. Like, I mean, how long these families been around? There's got to be people out there that know these things.
Oh, for sure.
About this place.
Absolutely.
And I always thought, like when we come to this world, or not always, but like I recently been thinking like, when we come to this world, there should be some sort of system where the people that are here already inform the new born, well, when they grow up a little bit, inform them what this place is and everything, because I never had a clue. I went through life not really thinking about any of this stuff really. I mean, like the space stuff is, Star Trek, that was always cool. Like I wanted to have like, well, now we got the cell phones. Those are kind of like the tricorder thing, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. And I think again that Hollywood is a very important tool to these people, because I remember in whatever it was, 77 or 78, being a 9-year-old boy in the movie theater watching Star Wars and just being blown away. And that's what you do as a child. You go home and you lay in bed and you fantasize about space travel. And because when you're young, you're so easily manipulated. And that's why here in the United States, I think it was so important for them to hijack the Department of Education so they could control the narratives.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, how's the education system in your neck of the woods?
It's pretty much the same, I guess. They teach indoctrination at these schools. But me going to high school and stuff, I never really I didn't really care for it. I was kind of like a class clown kind of guy.
That's what I was.
So I was always messing around. I didn't really care. I passed. I mean, I graduated high school and I went to college for welding, but it never, I wasn't like trying to get high marks all the time. I could have cared less about it. So I think that had a lot to do with it too, because a lot of people, when they go to school, right, try to get those high marks, impress your teacher and all that, and then you're on your way to whatever university or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it was very hard for me as a young man because I was a very active person. I played many sports. For me, being locked in a chair for 8 hours a day at school was brutal for me. It was, it really is it goes against what it means to be a child. Children should be out playing, running around. And here we homeschool. So we have the morning time outside taking care of chickens, gardens, and chores. Then it's, 10:30. It's, she comes in and does her schoolwork. and we have lunch, and then schoolwork in the afternoon. Then it's chores again. Education should not be 8 hours locked in a chair, listening to a teacher drone on about something that has been contrived by people who want us to believe a certain way. It should be challenging. It should be learning things that are going to help them in the world, learning how to grow things. I think it's hysterical that you go through, 12 years of indoctrination in the United States. They don't even teach you how to do your taxes. So once again, you have to rely on other people. And if you get it wrong, you get penalized. It's just quite a crazy system. And by the time you're 22, if you go to college, everything's difficult because by that time you're $100,000 in debt if you went to college. Car insurance here, when you're under the age of 25, is criminally insanely high. Some children are paying, young people, I should say, between the ages of 18 and 25 are paying a couple $100 a month in car insurance, $250 a month for car insurance. And then because they don't have any credit, they get astronomical interest rates for the loans. It's just we start the children off in this world completely upside down, and we put them behind the 8 ball. So the rest of their life, they're working to try to catch up and break even. And that is like the big thing, because they don't have time to sit back and think and have the conversations like we're having right now.
Yeah. I try to teach my kids a lot about this stuff. I tell them these things, but on our reserve, we go to school until grade 6, and then we go to town from grade 7 to grade 12. So from grade JK to grade 6, they teach us our language and some of the the hunting stuff and the stories, like the creation story and all that stuff. So that's I don't mind. That's all right for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool that you have that for kindergarten through 6th grade. That's very interesting. And then 7th to high school, you go into town with everybody else.
Yeah. But sometimes I think they must still teach the the solar system model, because I don't know where I would have got that from. I guess maybe I think they do down there. I think they're kind of integrated a little bit. Like, we do learn our language and stuff, but I'm not sure how that works. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I do know that, like, we learn math and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
And but yeah, I try to keep my kids. I tell them a lot about this stuff.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. We do too. Some of these videos we'll play with her right there, and we taught her both. We taught her heliocentrism, like, this is what they teach, and this is what we believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, so I think we have to do these things, because who else is going to do it? I don't want my kids growing up in, like, the world's already crazy, like, I don't know, like, all this gender stuff is crazy.
It's insane. By the way, I posted on my Instagram today, PetSmart is celebrating Pride Month in June, and they had a little advertisement with the puppies with their rainbows. So I guess we're celebrating gay dogs now. You just can't. Sometimes I think, is this for real, or somebody going to just say, "Hey, just kidding, you've been punked"?
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
It just never cease to amaze me.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
And that ties into going back to the activism. I mentioned to somebody, I said, if this stuff happened back in the 70s or 80s, my grandparents would have thrown these people in a volcano.
Yeah, that's the thing, eh? Like, same with my great grandma. She didn't take nothing from nobody, and I actually got to meet her. I think I was around 20 when she passed, and she always told me she told the family not to don't put your money in the bank. She had a shoebox under her bed, and
Wow.
that's where she kept her stuff. Yeah, and when she passed away, the family divided it up. I was just young. I don't even know how much was there, but I remember her saying that.
So she was hip to the bankers back in the day, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, another thing too is I don't think they were teaching her like she wasn't teaching her kids the language and stuff, because at that time I that's when the kids were getting scooped up, and I think everybody must have went like into like a hiding or something, because I've always heard them speak the language like walking around. My great grandpa or my great grandpa and my great grandma, but they wouldn't teach it. So, but when I got into school, right, they teach us down there.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
But lately I've been watching this other channel called Archaics. I don't know if you ever heard of that guy, Jason Brashears. They do a lot of stuff on the simulation stuff. And I don't know. It's been pretty interesting. I think it's been a while now since I've been on his channel. I think maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Archaics. Oh, wow. He's got over 100,000 subs.
He just blew up in the past year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he does a lot on the simulator. He talks everything. Well, the only thing is he doesn't come right out and say the earth is flat. He still kind of uses the round model, sort of, but he says because it's a simulation, so it's whatever your paradigm is. Like if you believe the world is round, you're going to find evidence that it's round. But I don't know, because when I set out to disprove that, right? I mean, and I found the evidence for the flat. So this stuff just intrigues me so much. It just, I think about it a lot.
Yeah, I get like when people write books, they have an agenda, and when people make videos, they have an agenda. But at the same time, if you're going in wholesale trying to prove or disprove something, then yeah, I think that might go against it. By the way, if you're in the Houston area, the Founded Earth Brothers, who I had Josh on here back in, I think, February or March, him and I guess both brothers and whoever runs this Archaics channel are going to be in Houston on June 10th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Right now, I just, my wife and I started a business in 2019. Just before all this, I was doing roofing, and we saved some money up, and we started a small business in right at the end of 2019. And we're actually still going. We did all right, but all things considering, right? I mean, but we still got it going, and that's it. Just I couldn't work for people anymore either.
Yeah,
I would tell my boss about all this stuff too, and he didn't. My one friend, which actually reminds me, I think I told her not to take the shot, and she took it, and I haven't been able to get a hold of her like 3 months now.
No kidding.
Yeah, and a lot of people on my reserve passed away too. A lot of the elders, well, a lot of people in general, young people, old people, and nobody's. It boggles my mind. Like, how can nobody clue in?
Nobody could put two and two together.
Yeah, like I said, right? I'm just, I'm nobody special. I don't know. It's so crazy to me.
Did they pass of similar issues, like myocarditis type of issues, or?
Oh yeah. Blood clots, freaking brain bleeds. Yeah, myocarditis, pericarditis, all that.
What was there a wide variety of ages?
Yeah, well, I think a couple people committed suicide too, but
oh my gosh.
It's getting bad. I mean, people don't really see it, but it is getting bad. I just, I pray every day for my close family members.
Yeah.
I warned them. I mean, that's all I could do. And, I don't know. It's just crazy where this world is headed. And I want my children to grow up in a good world, because, well, when I was younger, they said we're going to have all this cool stuff, like Back to the Future hoverboards and flying cars and all this stuff. So that's where I think that's that's where we should be right now.
Right. And that's funny. The only thing that we really accomplished out of all of those, going back to like the Jetsons, that cartoon, the only thing we really have is the FaceTime where we can like talk to each other. But the fact of the matter is we had that prior to that. The Germans had that in the 30s. They had that technology. So, I mean, it's not anything. They make it sound like it's leaps and bounds. And sure, it's wireless now, so you don't have to be in a wired booth. But still, you would think our technology, especially going from horses and steam trains, cars didn't really come around officially till I think 1885. And then we were flying planes 20 some years later. And then in the 50s, or in World War II, I should say, it was Wernher von Braun who was behind the V-2 rockets. And of course, if you believe the story, and that is a whole nother rabbit hole in itself. Was this guy really a German scientist who came over with Operation Paperclip, or was he just another actor on the world stage?
Yeah, I think he was probably just another actor.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things with that book he did with his protagonist name was Elon, and he did all those videos with Walt Disney. There is a lot of interesting things there. And of course, his headstone is a little head scratcher too.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty wild too. Yeah, I just wonder if some of these people at the end of their life, if like maybe they realize the truth or something.
Yeah, they get a conscious. They know they're about to meet their maker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, hopefully more people will do so, because it's interesting. A relative will try to tell you something, nobody will listen. But if a guy with a lab coat on the TV or a famous actor says something, they'll believe him.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Isn't it? It's just... It is. It's disheartening too, but we continue to plug along and share our victories together on this podcast, which is one of the reasons I like to do that, because the big key to all this is getting people to accept, or not to accept, the information. I don't want people to believe what I'm telling them. I want to take the information I give them and at least take the time to research it for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe this stuff is really important, and we gotta wake up, people. Everybody's gotta, say what you can, because like I said, I didn't even think I was ever gonna say anything to anybody anymore after all this Corona stuff. But like I said, coming across your podcast, it just kind of lit a little fire inside me, and I think I might get my channel going. And I had a couple little videos on there. I had one about the like the waters above, like when they shoot those rockets up, and there's that bright blue neon light.
Yeah,
I made a video about that, and I suggested it was like liquid helium-3 above us, like that's the ocean above us. I did a little bit of research on the liquid helium, and I seen there was a Russian scientist that was igniting helium gas inside of a vial, and it burns that exact same color, bluish, whitish, orangish, like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's so much, I think I might get something going, because there's so much information out there. I wish I could just share with everybody. Like I've been, I don't know, I listen to anybody and everybody, and then I use my discernment.
And that's exactly the way it should be. Absolutely. And that's why and again, I'm not aiming at any other podcasters or whatever. My methodology is, I say, and that's what Bill Cooper said, listen to everyone and discern for yourself, because even the people who are controlled, are going to tell you certain things that are true. That's their way of saying, hey, we told you so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't they believe that too, that they have to tell you
yes
what they're doing beforehand?
That's right. And listen, Fauci, there's that famous video, 2017. Fauci said that there will be a pandemic in the next administration, and it happened. And they're telling us now that there's another one coming. It's going to be worse. And what's coming next year in the United States? The next election cycle. So you can bet You're going to see a replay. There'll probably be another Summer of Love in 2024. Maybe it won't be the same playbook. Maybe it'll be a mass shooting or something else. It'll get the people spun up. The governmental and the controllers will spin it out. And then the next pandemic will come in the fall. And they'll make it worse. They'll obviously, they took COVID. They learned from their mistakes, and they're going to come back with a more complex playbook, and we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll kick it up a notch, and really, maybe they'll put something in the waters and really come after people. Who knows? These people are absolute psychopaths.
Yeah, they are psychos. It's crazy. I just hope more people wake up. Like, honestly, I'm surprised how many people are talking about these things. Even like in chats and stuff on channels, you see people. I follow this other guy named Lead Farmer 73. He's like a prepper guy, and he was talking about this stuff. Like, and people are waking up. You know, people had enough of this government or whoever, the Illuminati, all these. I just think they're rich billionaires, and these families been in there for a long time, and they just, you know, they run the show.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to the. What's the name of that rich shipping company? The man, I'm going to kick myself after this podcast. The very famous shipping company that goes back to like the 1600s.
I'm not sure. Is it I can't remember. Is it India something?
Yes, yes, exactly. The East India Company, right?
East India, that's the one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think they all go back. I mean, that company's been in business 500 years.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's a lot of this. I just told you about that Archaics guy.
Yeah,
he does a lot of that stuff too. Like, he does kind of like the gematria stuff, but he calls it something else. I think he calls it isometrics or something.
Huh.
But yeah, he does a lot of the numbers. He's really good. I would recommend his channel. I mean, well, he's a former convict too, right? And something happened in his past, and so that's a lot of. There's people that are making a big stink about that, which, I mean, I don't know. That happened a long time ago. He paid for it, you know. He was in jail and he's out now. But apparently, all that whole time he was in jail, I think it was like 20 years or something. All he did was read books. Mostly from like the 1900s and the 1800s, old books in these old jails, I guess. And he retained all that information, and he wrote a lot of it down. And so now when he got out, he's putting it all together in a presentation. And he talks about like this Phoenix thing. I don't know. Yeah, I recommend his channel if people are into that Tartaria, gematria, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's. I'm looking at it now. There's a couple of interesting things. He talks about the, 1871 is a date that comes up a lot in our history books. The Organic Act of 1871, where people say, Washington, D.C. became incorporated. 1871 was when Reconstruction really kicked off. And then there's this, he has a video I'm looking at, 1871 cyclical flood theory with Martin Ledke.
That one's that's a good one. That's a good one.
And the other one, which looks really interesting, was I just had it in front of me a second ago, but talking about the Civil War, whether or not that actually happened or not, which is interesting because our family did some genealogy, and we actually traced back to someone in our family who was killed in the Civil War. But again, how much of it is... I mean, I don't know, but there's some interesting stuff here. I'm looking at it now. It's very interesting.
Well, there was another story in my family. My great grandfather, apparently he went to, what was it, the Second World War? He was, it's kind of not a funny story, but he tells it like it's funny. He says he got on the, I don't know if it was a submarine or a boat, but they were going across the ocean to fight Hitler. And Hitler got word that he was coming, so he gave up. So they turned around and came back halfway there. They didn't even get to land.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing.
So that would have been 1945 sometime, huh?
Yeah.
That's a funny story. That's awesome. There's some very interesting information. I'll have to check it out. And again, I'll put this in the show description, as well as the links to Pat King and the other events that happen in Canada that you had mentioned before. What was the name of that rally you guys had? That's the one thing I need to pull back up in 2012.
Idle No More.
Idle No More. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just like, I think it was basically because we were all just kind of like the First Nations people. We were just taking what they give us, right? Like nobody was standing up for our rights or anything.
Yeah.
And then finally 2012 came, and it was a really huge movement for the First Nation people. And I thought that was it. I thought we were gonna, I thought something was gonna come of that. I mean, maybe a little bit of awareness came of that, but not as much as I think I would have liked.
Yeah, sadly, all these things, I think they all come up short because the government finally says enough, and they just do whatever it takes to crush it. And they have the media. We always have to remember they have the media at their disposal, so they can make everybody to be the bad guy with their narratives.
Yeah. Actually, I remember too when they changed all the. It's funny looking back on these things. I remember when they changed the news stations to like they all went to under a, must have been like a same corporation or something. In Canada, it's called CTV, and in my area, I forget what it was called before that, but all the channels changed to CTV. So like, say you were out in Toronto, you had like your Toronto news at 6 or something. Well, now it's going to be CTV, and then the same with like in Vancouver or whatever, right? They changed all the news stations. I think that was the beginning. Well, I think it was the digital. That's what it was. It was the digital. It went from antenna to digital. So I remember we used to be able to change the channels, and with the fuzzy, you find your channel like that, and then they took that away, and it was all digital. You couldn't search anything anymore.
Yeah, that was like
on your TV.
2004, 2005.
Yeah, I think so, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I do remember too. Growing up, we had so many independent television stations, and then of course there's the famous video. He was a stunt guy in California, and he kind of woke up and he put out a video during COVID, and they played all these television news outlets from around the country, and they were literally saying the same thing. But yeah, back in the day, there were some many independent television stations, and there used to be journalists who actually did their job. And we had something called cable access, where you could buy 30 or 60-minute bundles from the cable company, and you could go to the TV studio and have your own show.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a big thing in the 80s and 90s here in the States. You could, pay. It was a reasonable amount of money, and you could go in and do your own show. They provided the cameramen and everything else. But all that stuff is gone. Everything is gone.
Is that kind of like what Alex Jones does? Something like that?
Well, except it was actually broadcast on cable television.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah, every cable company had their own cable access channel, and it was just local people had their own shows throughout the day, who would pay for programming. Alex was more, he always had his own outlet on his, now he did I guess he had some, for a while there, he did have some flagship radio, and he still may have a few, but I think for the most part, 95% of his viewers are on his website.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we hit the hour 40 mark, so we should probably start to wrap up here. I did want to first thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and, moreover, sharing your perspective from your viewpoint. I would like to give you the floor here for a few minutes, and whatever you would like to talk about, or any final words to the audience.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you. First of all, and thank the Creator for this wonderful day and for this awesome interview. I just want to say I hope people wake up a little more, and I think this is the time we've been waiting for. This is the time that a lot of our ancestors are been talking about. I feel there's something coming. I don't know what it is, but I just say everybody stay vigilant, and keep your head on a swivel, as you like to say.
Yeah.
But I just want to leave with this little poem here. Yeah. They say that history is written by the victors, but how can there be a victor when the war isn't over? The battle has only just begun, and Creator is sending his very best warriors. And this time, it isn't Indians versus cowboys. No, this time, it is all the beautiful races of humanity together on the same side. And we are fighting to replace our fear with love. This time, bullets, arrows, and cannonballs won't save us. The only weapons that are useful in this battle are the weapons of truth, faith, and compassion. And that's from Lila June. Her name is. She's got a YouTube channel.
Well,
she's a singer.
That's the perfect way to end this this interview and this first season. And for everybody listening at home, if you want to reach out to JJ, I will have both his email and his YouTube channel link, so you can reach out to him and say hello and share your thoughts with him. And don't be a stranger, JJ. And to all the listeners, keep plugging away. If you find some successes, shoot us an email. Let us know how you were able to win over people, or at least to get them to look beyond what's put in front of them. People they like to be told the truth. It seems like work to them to have to dig and to find the truth for themselves. So let's keep plugging away, and let's pray for everyone. And like JJ said, I think there's a lot of people who feel that something big is coming, and we must remain vigilant. But at the same time, don't let the fear overcome us, overwhelm us.
No fear.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Stay positive. Keep your head up. And don't let remember, like I said, they want us to be afraid. Put on the armor of God, and put your chin up, and do your best to spread the word. So thank you again, JJ, so much for sharing your time with us, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And I look forward to seeing everyone in season 2. We'll kick off again in mid-June. A lot of you will be getting emails from me to get June and July scheduled. We have I think 20 or 25 people on the waiting list to get scheduled. So we'll get that going soon. For JJ, I'm George. God bless everybody. Take care of yourself. And until next time, we will see you.